Okay, so most of you that I've met in the past face-to-face was at the Arcane Relics convention, soiree, whatever you want, and you saw the seance that I did in which bottle pendulums were demonstrated, which there were a handful of bottles on about 3 different tables. And then afterwards, you saw my short lecture on that. So for those of you who saw that and listened to that, you know the basic methods that I use. But in the book that I've got, and I'll type that in the chat, I've got some additional material that would probably add to the presentation. And the book is, I thought I had a copy right here. Man, that's prepared. Here it is. So here it is. It's bottle pendulums. It's called Bottled Spirits Distilled Bottle Pendulum for Spirit Theater with Swing Time bonus material.
Oh, nice.
And the Swing Time bonus material is tips and techniques and ideas for improving your success with pendulums. And because I think it's vital that if you're going to do bottle pendulums, you have got to demonstrate the pendulum beforehand so that it's cemented in the audience's mind that these move normally when they're being held, but when they're in a bottle, there's no earthly hand that is touching them. And you can use these if you wanted to for a psychic demonstration that it's in a sense a pseudo PK, as it were, that you're mentally commanding these things to move back and forth or in a circle, or in the context that I use them often, of course, it's with spirit theater or seances, and that they are an indication of one of several things. One, which they say they are, it's indication of the presence of spirits, because these pendulum weights are affected by their presence, either through the spirit passing through the pendulum weight, or that the pendulum actually attracts them and they're, in a sense, playing with them. And there are ungimmick methods. And if you saw the lecture, you know that I can use a small gimmick to enhance the outcome. And I am selling the gimmick as well, but I will be honest with you guys, if you buy the book, you'll be able to find the gimmick. And I'm not just going to tip it here, but it's available at home improvement stores. It's a piece of hardware, basically, that works perfect for this. I also show how you can make other types of gimmicks to do the same thing. But also with the construction of a bottle pendulum, and in that how I approach it. Traditionally, I use a silver chain. Some people use a string, and I know why they use string, because the chain often will become knotted and entangled, and they're kind of a pain to untangle. But I think it looks better. The optics for me are better when it's a chain, because it's nice and shiny. And if it's used in a room that's got candles all around the table, it shows up more than the string. And let's see what else. Oh, and I'm going to give you another tip on pendulums that I don't know if I put this in the book or not, but I'm going to share this with you, because a lot of folks have said, man, I can't get my sitters to make the pendulum work. You know, they're looking at the pendulum. I'm doing the script as you're supposed to, and it's just not working. In my fallback position on that, and it sounds silly and it sounds so simple, but I have them close their eyes. Have them close their eyes, go through your prompts once again, and you'll have a much higher success with somebody who is fighting you. Because I have actually, and we've all seen it, if we've worked with pendulums, it begins to move and the person doesn't, like, no, I don't want this to work for whatever reason. And I'm not going to question their motives, but definitely it's frustrating for the performer when, man, it's starting to go and then it stops because they are making it stop. So by having them close their eyes, go through the script, the thing moves on its own regardless, and they don't know that it is. And then you ask them to open their eyes and it's really moving. And if it comes to rest, you use that to your advantage, in that you are denying your psychic self or your subconscious that's causing this to move. And so the word of advice, just let your subconscious go, or whatever word you want to use.
Mhm.
But it's amazing how people who are fighting it, and then when they close their eyes, that sucker starts moving back and forth really nice. So try
That's an
that.
amazing tip. That's an amazing tip.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you
So
for sharing that with us.
you bet.
Heck yeah, man.
And I don't think that's seen print anywhere. I came up with my own and just tried it, and it worked. And I don't remember reading that anywhere. So
Awesome.
there's that.
So I don't know if you know this or not, but we just announced today that we're going to make this the book of our book club.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
we're going
thank
to order some books from you. Do we order those from you, or do you have a link somewhere?
Yeah. So let me put it in the chat, the site where you can get these. Okay.
While you're doing that too, we'll arrange some questions here for you. In your book, do you talk about stooges or not to use stooges?
No, I think I do mention it.
Okay.
Then why not use it?
Okay.
I call them hidden assistants.
Of course. Hidden assistants.
Yeah, they're not a stooge. TysonInsight.com, secret cabinet shop.
Why degrade them a little bit here?
Yeah. So
the question I was asked, Terry, is would you suggest or how would you suggest the use of a magnet in a pendulum, or would you?
I would not. I know it's been brought up before by other writers, Jim Magus being one of them, who is a really talented and insightful and informed worker. And he suggested using magnets, and I don't, for a couple of reasons. For one thing, you don't need it. You just don't need it. And it's just one more thing for you to screw up, and it doesn't work all that well. Unless you're really, really flexible with your knee, or if you're going to be placing your hands on the side, there's no reason to. And you're going to have to get a pendulum weight that is magnetic, and normally they're crystals or something like that. And that's not too tough to figure out, to make one, but I don't suggest it. There's no reason to use them. Just go with it. Yeah. Okay. And the other thing too, guys, is don't be in a rush. You got to let this stuff develop. And if you're expecting movement out of those within 5 minutes, you're going to be very disappointed. If you're not getting anything in about 10 to 12 minutes, then you might want to employ subterfuge and a gimmick or other methods. But usually within 10 minutes, and you've done your work, and you've prompted them, and you've used your script to your advantage, it's going to work. It's almost like the haunted key. The haunted key just works, right? And the same thing with a pendulum, 90% of the time, as well as the bottle pendulum too. I do go into detail about which tables work best and which tables are a pain.
Okay.
I know that, was it Joe Diamond basically tipped it in one of his scam school YouTube videos, and it worked for him pretty well, but he was also using the perfect freaking table for it. Yeah. And he had a tall table, small round tabletop, and it had 3 legs or something like that at the bottom, and that is absolutely the ideal table. And he had 3 people around it, and yeah, it's going to work regardless. So, but if you're faced with a situation in which you're going into a client's house and they give you the dining room table, you better be ready to deal with that. Okay. And be ready to make it work.
Yeah. So I got a question for you. So when you did the seance here at the parlor, was there a method that you used to select the people who sit at your table?
No, but there were not at my table necessarily, but if you recall, we worked with pendulums ahead of time, and those that had success with the pendulums, those are the people that we used to be scryers with the stones And they also had the bottle pendulum in front of them because I thought that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
The other thing I have not put in the book, and I'll just mention it here, is if you recall in the seance, we build the pendulums from the ground up. Basically, the bottles are on their side. We place the pendulums inside and we wait for it to come to rest. I've decided that you could actually start right away, even if they're moving a little bit. And the scripting for that is, we know they're moving. That's because we just, built these things, but we're going to allow them to move because the spirits will be drawn to that movement. And so what that does, it prompts the people in their mind's eye or the psychic eye or spiritual eye, whatever your script is, to continue that swing. And it gives you sort of a head start. And so I've decided from now on, let them come to rest a little bit, but not completely still, so that people can see them moving. They know what to expect, and just use your script to your advantage in that regard, rather than because you could wait for a very, very long time for those things to come to rest completely. So just, it's just go, just, within a few minutes, just take off and start your scripting for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty interested in knowing how you came up with closing your eyes, because to me, that is one hell of a tip.
I just did it to somebody one day.
Yeah.
And it worked, and it just hit me like a lightning bolt that their resistance to it moving is circumvented by them closing their eyes, and just go from there.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Thanks.
So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this. I got your lecture notes, and I'm looking forward to this one too. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask.
Is Ariel all right?
Is Ariel all right? Oh, I should probably stop recording for that. I can't see him.
No, really, he's been bent over like that and hadn't moved.
Yeah, he sleeps.
As you go,
Okay.
So, and it is mentioned in the book several times about getting the cadence of the pendulum to move with the lifting mechanism, and it's something you just got to work with. But basically what you're trying to do, imagine that the pendulum is a metronome, and as we know, if you put two metronomes together on a tabletop or a surface that moves, even if they're out of sync, after a while they'll start getting into sync. And that's and what you do is you try to get the resonance or the beat of that pendulum. You get the beat of your footwork to match the beat of the pendulum, and the more you use it, the larger the movement after a while. But you have to be so subtle with it, and it's like you're feathering an accelerator on a car. Just really, really subtly. And so in any event, you got to practice with it, and you've got to look as you're doing it. If you can see the table move very much at all, don't do it. You're pressing too hard. The exception to that is once they have really, really started to move and they're swinging and all of that, I invite you to push down the lever a lot, slowly. Because what will happen is that the table will move and they will notice that, but they won't associate it with the pendulums. They'll associate it with spirits moving the table.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just an experiment that I did in the last few of the seances we did last October. because they were going great. I thought, let me try something. What have I got to lose? So I really started pumping it, and people are going, oh my God, it's moving. And another person described it as a heartbeat. I can feel the heartbeat of
Nice.
this table. And I said, I don't feel it. And they go, you can't. And I go, no. I said, oh, there, I felt it. So I went along with it for a little bit. And that was sort of an added bonus that I got this great result from, backing off at the beginning and then right towards the end, giving it like half a dozen really good movements. And that tabletop is moving. It's really, really moving.
Oh, you're talking about up and down, eh?
Yeah. Up and down, nice and rhythmically.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, when you're doing at the beginning with your foot pedal feathering, is that you just want to set up a rhythm, and it's matching the cadence of that pendulum weight.
Wow.
It's
That's
very
cool.
similar to the Burmese bells.
Is that right, Jerry?
Yes, Burmese bells work the same way.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Well, you're not using your foot, you're using your hands.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
Is this in regards to the hands on the table
Mhm.
or off the table?
Mhm.
So when they sit down, do you have them put their hands on the table?
Mhm.
Or
After the pendulums have been built and assembled in front of them, then they put their hands on the table, and we do the invocation, the induction, and the dialogue that goes along with referencing the pendulums themselves. And I'll just give you the
I'm running out
basics.
of smokes.
okay.
Oh no, Jerry, he's running out of smokes. God bless.
I'm sorry.
We
Okay,
gotta
Jerry.
call 911.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry.
play this too,
it's
right?
I was talking to my wife. I didn't have it muted. I'm
yeah,
sorry. Ted.
I didn't think it was your butler. So anyway, we've done the work with the pendulums, and I've had them use their, and I use both terms at the beginning, either their subconscious mind or their psychic eye, to get that pendulum to move.
Mhm.
And then inside the seance room, I reference that just as we used our psychic eye, our subconscious mind to move the pendulums as we held them, we are now going to allow our spiritual eye and spiritual self to help make these pendulums move. And if you recall the script, basically, and I'll see if I can remember it, is that everybody's got their hands on the table and they can close their eyes, and it's totally fine. They don't have to be watching them necessarily. But I say, imagine that a dark door is opening behind you. Imagine that door is filled with stars, but it's not a fearful door. It is a door to discovery. And through that door, spirits will be invited behind you. And as they pass around and through you and are drawn to these pendulums, you will see the pendulums move. And we invite the spirits to interact with the pendulums, to make them move. And it's almost like the same script a little bit as we're using on the handheld pendulums, but we're attributing everything to the spirits. And that's sort of an introduction. It sets up a nice visual, and it also helps explain some of the stuff that's going on later on with the red light when they're surrounded by, this these spiritual masks or spiritual hands that cross their face or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you have to introduce the concept that the spirits are going to move through you, and that also sets up the whole thing about as they move through you, they're connecting through your body and into your hands. And we're now going to ask the spirits to move the pendulums. And then it's almost hypnotic. Please move the pendulum. Spirits, we invite you to, and you set up that sort of rhythmic, almost a semi-hypnotic cadence. And seriously, 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, the work is done. They're starting to move.
Yeah.
which is what happened in Texas. You realize I only had control over one table, but they were moving a little bit on each one,
Yeah.
and exaggerate what you're seeing. If it's moving just a little, you say, "Oh my goodness, it's moving! It's moving quite a bit."
Hmm.
You know, that's wonderful. It's really swinging. Does everybody see that? And you know, so forth and
Yeah.
so on.
Yeah.
So
I really
Terry,
love that line.
that's,
That's a great line. Wow.
That's so good, Terry. I use in a scrying session with the obsidian ball I have and red light of the door behind or the gate behind. And that really prepares them. 9 times out of 10, some of them will say, well, I felt something.
yeah. And you ask them, Jerry, I'm sure you asked them, if you feel a breeze coming through that door, or
Yes,
you feel something pass by you, please let us know.
yes,
And I know Yitzhak and Larry and others will tell you that you're going to get testimonies to the positive after it's done. They rarely speak up at the time for whatever reason, whether they're embarrassed or they're afraid of looking foolish. But then when you bring the lights back up, say, you know, who experienced something? And man, all the hands start coming up. And I sort of make a joke. If you see something, say something, you know, sort of like at the airport.
At the airport. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
so-
that is really good. That door, that lines that you use to introduce the door behind you is so intriguing that it's just, it silences a room and makes you focus.
yeah, that's the whole thing. I want them to focus.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
really good. That's the whole-
Thanks. Well, do you want me to set up and just move my camera over?
Yeah, yes,
and
please, man. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
go for it.
so let me do that. Let me change my speakers.
You want me to stop recording, then record again?
Yeah, if you like, it's up to you. I want to confirm that you can hear me well.
Yes.
Okay, good. In this instance, I have 4 bottle pendulums already assembled, but it's not uncommon that when we are coming into the seance chamber that the bottle pendulums are going to be like this, laying on its side with the cork and the weight separate. And the reason for that is when people are sitting down, it shakes the table quite a bit and they're really moving. We want them to come to somewhat of a stop. So the way we work this is we'll take the bottle like this, lay it on its side. And if you recall from the seance that I take my hand and sweep off any residual energy from prior sessions, and that we slowly bring it upright. And even doing that, of course, the pendulum's still moving. People place their hands on the table, we go through the script, and the pendulums begin to move. And if you were doing this as a solo seance, you can bring your hands up just like this and have the bottle pendulums begin to move on their own. And if you, I don't know if the camera is picking up, but all of them are moving now. A bit.
And
And this one is still moving nicely. That one's actually hitting the side. Can you hear that?
yeah,
Another thing that's interesting to experiment with is to change bottle positions. I was doing this the other day, and this one was really, really dancing. We're going to put that here. And this contains graveyard dirt. And they're moving a bit right now, but we'll see if we invite the spirits into the room to come through us and be attracted to these pendulums to see if they are interested in interacting with them. And we can see that this one already is kicking in pretty well. This one's going really well. This one's going nicely. The one on the far end is not so much. But these three here are going nicely. In candlelight, it's, one might say, well, I can't really see the pendulum weights. I think my personal opinion from what my experience has been that they show up enough. And in fact, it looks like they're moving a little more than what you think that, or they're moving a little bit more than they actually are.
Yeah.
And because of the flickering light, and we can see this, these are all going very, very nicely. When we ask the spirits to be gone, we banish them to be gone, and the pendulum weights will begin to come to rest.
Okay.
And they're slowing down quite nicely. So that's basically it. You know, I'm using a hands-off approach. If you want to, you can do it hands-off. I think it's nice to have the hands on the tables and have it work what I call organically, as opposed to using any other kind of method. Just let it organically move on its own, and they'll really get going.
Yeah, really cool.
Hey, go back to my desk if you want to stop the
Okay.
recording.
Okay, so the question is about placing things inside the bottle that's other than the pendulum. Do you place like you said, you know, graveyard dirt? Do you place anything else in there, or?
I haven't, but as we're mentioning off camera, you can certainly put ashes in there. You could also, you're limited somewhat about the size of the vial, that if you could put, if you're doing a real bizarre thing and hair clippings or something like that, if you wanted to, that's just not the way I roll, but I can see, you can put anything in there that you want, you know.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking something like along the lines of, if you're contacting the dead, like a specific sort of a seance, like you knew somebody that drowned, so this is a little bit of the lake water.
Sure.
You can put the pendulum over the water, but that way the water would also move, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So if anybody else has any questions, we're gonna edit this part out because I don't want that part of Terry's thing.
Not me.
Blow
but
things
it's
up.
the material you can use. Hang on a second, I'll grab it.
All right, so thank you very much,
you're
Terry, for doing this.
Yeah, so just one more thing.
Yep.
The book is 48 pages, including the cover, and it's got color pictures and all that kind of stuff in there. It's 12-point type, so it's easy to read, and it's very simply, you know, saddle stitched, and it fits into a catalog envelope, and I can mail it to you if you're interested. So
Yeah, we're gonna order some. I know we're gonna order mine, and hopefully you can sign it before you ship it.
make sure you put that note in there to remind me. Okay.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. All right, thanks again, Terry.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Terry.